Okay, we're going to dive into the readings for June 14th, 2026, which is Pr06, Lectionary 11, which is how we count the lectionary readings for the Sundays after the Feast of the Pentecost. And if that doesn't make sense, I will link the Season of Pentecost video to the comments of this one so that you can go back and check that out. So our Old Testament lesson for Pr06 Lectionary 11 is Exodus 19 verses 2 through 8. So what has just happened is Moses has delivered the children of God, the Hebrew people, out of slavery in Egypt. They've crossed the Red Sea. There were about 1 million of them, we think. About 3 months have gone by since that day, and they're sort of trying to figure out, okay, now what do we do? They had been enslaved for 400 years, and a slave mentality is not just thrown off because you walked across a dry sea. So God has some work to do with the people. Moses had been kind of hearing about their disputes and the things that were troubling them, and they had never ever been able to decide for themselves, what do we do when there's a problem? What do we do when two people disagree about something? In Egypt, they had just been killed, and so they now have to figure out how do we live as a free people and make our own decisions, and they don't know how. And so Moses' father-in-law says, you're going to kill yourself dealing with all this stuff. 1 million people, that's too many. And so he tells him, give responsibility for this to men whom you trust. And whatever minor disputes they have, those men can handle those. And if there's something that between the leaders they can't figure out, have them bring that to you. But you can't sit here morning to night every single day and try to figure out how to teach these people. That's not what you should be doing. And so Moses agrees, and Moses realizes he has got to do what his father-in-law said and start teaching them, here's how it looks to belong to God. Here's what the people of God looks like now that we're able to freely live in the way that he wants us to live. None of them, in 400 years, none of them had ever experienced that. And so in the chapter after the one that we're reading this coming Sunday, God gives them the 10 commandments. So we're sort of in between the crossing of the Red Sea and the giving of the 10 commandments. God is shaping the people through this time into his own people, teaching them what it looks like to belong to him. So they're camped out in the wilderness at the foot of this mountain, and Moses goes up to the mountain, and God meets him there, and God tells him, you need to tell the people to get ready. I'm going to come to them. I have some important things that I want to communicate to them, but they have to be ready. And this can be kind of an important instruction for us. On Saturday night and Sunday morning, we come to worship. We prepare. Families with really young children sometimes will lay out the children's Sunday clothes Saturday night so that we've got everything that we need. We've got Saturday night baths. When I was growing up, my mom had special radio programs that she listened to on Sunday mornings that played sacred music and spoke on biblical texts, and those were the ways that we used to get ready to go to church. You don't just plop down in front of God. There's a preparatory phase that you need to go through because it's God and he deserves that. And so this is the first time in the history of the people of God that God has instructed them in how to do this. You're going to see me. I'm going to come meet you, but you need to do some special things. You need to get ready. You can't just come up here. And so he reminds them of what he had done for them, delivering them from Pharaoh, from slavery, through this impossible situation, in this impossible way. And so he's deserving of whatever he wants to ask of us. It's well within his rights to ask us to behave in a certain way, spend time in a certain way, and honor him. So in verse 6, he says, verse 5, now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. He says it right there. Everything that is belongs to me, but I'm choosing you. And all you have to do is obey my voice and keep the covenant. That's all. Do they do it? Do we? Did that catch God off guard? No. He knew, just like we looked at in the readings last week. He already knows that we can't possibly do it, that we will never be able to fulfill our end of the covenant, our end of what it's required to be his chosen people. And he knew that this people back then would not be able to do it either. And he still set the covenant. He still chose them as his people. Why? Because he wanted to, because he loved them, because that was his choice and his will in his godness, in all of his wisdom and his creativity, and his power. He chose them, and he chooses us. And he asked one thing of them, obedience, and he asks one thing of us, obedience, already knowing from before the foundations of the world that we can't do the one thing. We can't. Which is why from before the foundations of the world, he knew that he would send his son to fix the problem and to bring us to himself forever. So he tells them, you're going to be set apart. You'll be a kingdom of priests and you'll be holy. And there are things that he's getting ready to teach them in order for them to live that out. And there are things that we need to do in order to live that out. We are a kingdom of priests as the believers of Christ and his disciples. We are different than people who don't follow Christ. There is a clear distinction made between us and people who don't declare for Christ. And that's on purpose. We're not supposed to blend in. We have to choose differently. We have to live differently. We have to prepare differently. We have to spend our time and our money differently. And that starts all the way back here after they had been delivered from Egypt, from slavery. So Moses obeys and he tells the people what God wants. Verse 8, it just cracks me up. All the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. Yes, we will. We're really excited that we're not slaves anymore. We're not quite sure about this desert and wilderness bit, but whatever God wants, we will do. And that lasts about 2 minutes, just like it does with us. We walk out of church and someone cuts us off, or, something goes wrong in the line at the store, or something happens in our family, and we sin. And that doesn't catch God off guard. He still chooses us. He says, you're part of my kingdom. You're holy. You're set apart. I choose you. I love you. I sent my son to die for you. I continue to choose you. And there isn't anything that you can do that's going to make me choose you less. And so this is kind of the establishment then of God's chosen people, and we are the beneficiaries of that.